Hi there, and welcome to this latest update on my tomatoes. In this video we'll be asking the question, what are suckers and what can we do with them? I'll be running through a couple of ideas and showing you how to make the most of them. But before we do that, I'm going to run through what I've been doing in the garden with these tomatoes with regard to maintaining them in the best possible shape so that I can maximise fruit production. Now, back in March you may have seen me pricking these out from little seedlings and putting them into their own pots, and I can assure you these are the exact same tomatoes that you've seen in all the previous updates. Here you can see the buckets that I transferred them into, and you may recall in a previous video that they were staked up and tied to these 4-foot canes. Now you can see that they are reaching the top of the canes. They are nearly 1.2 meters high and they are growing absolutely incredibly quickly. And you can see here also that we have fruit production. We can see the tomatoes emerging and they are really rapidly growing now. So this latest update is about maintaining the quality of the plants, tying them up and dealing with the suckers. Firstly, I gave all the buckets a good de-weeding, as this saps energy and moisture from where you want it to go, which is into the roots of the tomatoes that you are growing. Next, I trimmed the branches and leaves from the bottom of the plants and any diseased or unhealthy looking leaves that I found much higher up on the plants. So here you can see I've got some leaves which are not looking too healthy, so I took those off. This reduces the chances of the plant being diseased at a later stage and hopefully will yield better fruit production. Now it's time to start looking at what suckers are. A sucker is a new piece of growth growing in between the main stem and a branch growing out sideways. The sucker grows out at roughly 45 degrees between the two. These are in effect new tomato plants, but what they'll do is sap away energy from the main tomato plant from putting its energy into growing and ripening fruit. So these are not ideal. If you want a bushy tomato plant, you'll leave these suckers to grow. Your main tomato plant will then grow out of control and you will not get the best quality fruit. Indeed, some of your fruit may not even ripen before the season ends. Now here I've got some small suckers and some rather larger suckers, and I'm going to deal with these in two different ways. The small suckers, I'm going to either pinch them out with my fingers or I'm going to scrape them out with a pair of scissors, as I'm doing here. Now these larger suckers are the potential makings of a new plant. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these off and I'm going to put them in water and then deal with them later. Now, having worked my way through 23 buckets worth of tomato plants in doing these operations, I've got a good quantity of small and good sized suckers with which to work with later. Now, with the suckers removed, all that remains for me to do is to tie off the tops of the tomato plants so that they can continue growing in a straight upwards direction. So this is what I'm doing here. I'm staking the tomatoes up so that they can continue growing upwards. This will maximise the space efficiency and productivity of these tomato plants, given the very small space that I have to grow them in. When tying up the tomato like this, I tend to leave 1 centimetre of play in the loop so that the tomato stem has got plenty of room to grow into. Now what are those suckers? The suckers make ideal late cropping tomato plants. Simply pot them up and they will root within 7 to 10 days. Once they've established, they will grow a little bit slower than the main plant that they came from, but they will eventually grow and yield tomatoes of their own, which will give you a nice crop late on in the season. These are a bonus to your main crop. So here I'm filling up pots with saturated soil, and I simply then place the sucker straight into the soil. Turn it down so that it will make good contact with the soil. Now as you can see, I made 13 pretty decent sucker plants. So I'm looking forward to seeing these grow on over the coming weeks. Lastly, I had 3 rather larger suckers that I cropped off, so I had to find bigger pots for these. So here I am dealing with these larger suckers in the same way, but in bigger pots. Lastly, label up each of the plants so that you know where they came from and when you did them. All that remains to do then is to put these in a little greenhouse so that they have got a nice warm environment in which to grow. In total I have 16 new tomato plants, and the next time we do an update on my tomato plants will be when we're picking ripe fruit. So see you next time.